Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dan salam sejahtera. First of all, I must thank the organizer for bringing me here. I don't want to be here, but they invite me and they ask me to be here. And I'm here now just to share something with you. Something that I regard as a compliment to the first two papers which was presented yesterday morning by Dr. Noor Alia and also by the Daniel Boy on the GIS as well as geospatial. So what I plan to do this morning is that to share with you a portion of our activity, our daily activity, of which we feel proud of it in the sense of that we can share, we can transmit the information, the process information to the planners, to the administrators for the betterment of our own country. So in doing that, even though I think I have 10 minutes extra, because the first two speakers have saved 5 minutes of their time and they pass it to me, but I do not plan to consume all. I may pass it to the last speaker, the other 5 minutes, I will take 5 minutes. And anyhow, what I plan to do is just to talk a little bit about the data management within the department, of which, not apart from trying to share of what we have, I also would like to receive feedbacks and comments from colleagues who are expert in this field about how to better the information management within my department. I'll share with you two examples about how we use the GIS in our daily works before I conclude it. Okay. We exist for a certain function. All the organization exists because they are asked or they are tasked to do something. And among others, our role is to serve as a custodian for the minerals and geoscience data and information. To being a data custodian, you have to have an infrastructure, you have to have a good storage system and also an effective retrieval system, and as being discussed yesterday, you should produce what your client needs. What I can say that in my department, we are slow worker, like Datuk Jamlus explained just now. We are also not as rich as others, we are as poor as you. So we don't have that many new technology and facilities. But I can assure you that we have extensively used and effectively used all the technologies and blend it with all data to manage, to analyze all the information. And when I say information and data, for geoscience alone, it includes the geological mapping data, the geochemical, the results from the laboratory analysis, the geophysical data. This geophysical for some of us is feeling without touching, using a remote sensing method to obtain some information. We also have to deal with the hydrogeological data as being explained by third paper yesterday morning. It's about the hydrogeological data in Australia. We do have the same. And also to deal with the engineering geological data. That is among the major sort of data that we are dealing with. And we do have what we call it the database, as displayed by the top photograph. Right. What we are saying that all this data, together with the other geospatial data and information, such as topography, which we obtain from the departments belongs to Mr. Chair, the remote sensing data, which we obtain from another agency, as well as land use and rainfall data, all we gather, we collect them, we analyze, and after we analyze it, we generate various maps, various derivative maps, which to us are informative, and we keep talking to our clients how to betterment all those products so that not only we understand the content of the map, but also the client also can find what they want and what they need from us. So we produce, among others, is the groundwater potential map, the mineral potential map, construction suitability map, landslide hazard map, risk map, and few more for land use planning, for development planning of the country, be it at the state level and also at this district level. So, as I said earlier, that what I will try to do is just to highlight some example where GIS has been used to manage, to process, to collate, to cook all the geoscience data, and I zoom it to the geohazard aspects, hoping that I can catch some attention for the paymasters to bring us what we need and what we require to speed up things. Okay, the slide now shows about our data management system, what we call it MinGeoSys, Mineral Geoscience System. So in this system, the MinGeoSys system, we collect all the data which we collect it in the field. We do all the data which we collect it from other agencies, the secondary data, as well as all the cook and process data. So we blend it together and we try to come up with something. So in a different form, to achieve the MinGeoSys, you have one level below, that is the GIS level. We have the map GIS, we have the exploration GIS, we have the mineral GIS, hydrogeological GIS, and engineering geological GIS. We have, on the other hand, a database system. We have special data, which we collect it from others, or we collect it ourselves. And we have, before that, at the basis, so many database, individual database, such as industrial mineral database, coal resources database, metallic mineral database, and so on. So this is the conceptual of what we are having right now. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, and now I would like to move into the second part of the presentation. That is about the GIS application, and I'll start with the geological terrain mapping. Why terrain mapping is important? Just look at the two photographs which were taken at the same area, but not from the same angle, but the same area in 2005, as well as in 2000. The most recent, the one that below is 2011. I cannot imagine that if I'm the owner of this resort, after spending so much time, spending so much money to buy the land, to develop, to promote, and next morning when I wake up, and I'll see that there's nothing much left on my land. So, in order to meet the challenge, we try to come up, we search around, and we found that the GCO of Hong Kong, Geotechnical Control Office of Hong Kong, has started with something, with a program, which they call it Terrain Mapping Program. So we study it, we study the program, we talk and we discuss with them, and finally we do some modifications because they are working for different temperate, different climates, and here we in Malaysia, we have different set of climate. So we do some modification, and we do what we come up, what we have, we call it Geological Terrain Mapping Program. We employ this as a tool in the development planning, also in the managing of the geohazard in certain area, which we call it GSA, Geological Sensitive Area. Earlier on, people call it ESA, Environmental Sensitive Area, and we regard it that GSA as part and parcel of the ESA. Geological Sensitive Area is part and parcel of the Environmental Sensitive Area. So what do? We collect data in the field, we collect the geology, we map the topography, we record the landform, and we observe and record all the geodynamic features such as landslides and erosion and whatnot. And all those information, all those attributes, we do it, we enter into the database, and we use the GIS technology to collect them, we analyze them, and later on we generate derivative thematic maps. Normally in this terrain mapping, we produce 6 maps. They are called terrain classification map, landform map, erosion map, physical constraint map, engineering geological map, and construction suitability map. The last one, the number 6, is the most important, where we share it, and we'll try to make it as simple as we can, so that the reader, which is a planners, can easily understand it. Ladies and gentlemen, we start with the base map, the geology map. Normally the norm in the department, to map an area of 1,000 square kilometers, you need to spend a year or maybe a year and a half in the jungle to collect all the information, and after that come up and translate it and transform it into a map. In a remote area, 1 minute, about 3 years to complete a same area of 1,000 square kilometers. But does not matter. What we have is geology map will serve as the basis of all the process we are dealing with. But with the help and assistance of the mean geodesics, which I explained earlier, we managed to come up with what we call it with a slope gradient map. We also come up with the terrain classification map, landform map, erosion map, physical constraint map, and the most important, as I said earlier, is that the construction suitability map. This construction suitability map is a map which divides the area into classes, which we call it class 1, class 2, class 3, and class 4. Throughout the country, all will use the same subdivision, and also will use similar standard and features. Each class has an implication on geotechnical limitation of the area, suitability of the development of the area, the costing factors for the development, and also how intensify, what is the intensity of their site investigation. If they are dealing with class 3, they need to spend a little bit more money and more time to do the site investigation. If you are in a class 1, you need to do only the basics site investigation. All right. In order to come up with that construction suitability map, there are so many things to do, and among others, we look at the slope gradient, we look at the terrain, we look at the activity on the land, and also we observe, as I said earlier, about the erosion and instability processes affected the area. That is why you have to remember in the slope gradient, the code 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the terrain code ABC until Z, the activity codes, and then also there are so many codes in thing. And with all those codes, you come up with the first map. That is terrain classification map, comprises of nothing but letter and number. It's not meant for the clients, but meant for ourselves to check back the analysis and the results of our analysis. Then we do also, this is another example of the erosion map in Cameron Highland. Cameron Highland again, or the physical constraint map. And when we come to the construction suitability map, we are talking about the geotechnical limitation in the area, the suitability of the area for the development, the engineering cost for the development, and the intensity of site investigation required, which we class it as being explained in the table. So, I do not want to share with you in detail, and please do not try to memorize what is being displayed and distributed. But what I'm trying to say is that for each class, class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4, there are a lot of criteria for our own, so that it's not meant for the audience to consume it today. So this is for class 1 and class 2, for class 3, as well as for class 4. And this is the result for the case of Cameron Highland, where majority of the area falls within class 4, meaning that in a layman term is a no-go area. Right. Now we move to geohazard mapping. In geohazard mapping, we do the same thing, the same process as the terrain mapping, but we add in a few more information, such as the engineering geological map of the area, and as well as the monitoring of the active fault and surface motion and whatnot, so that we can come with more meaningful and informative results. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the area that I'm talking about. If you look at the top left photograph, it is a house which keep moving. It keep moving, keep creeping slowly at the pace of about, say, maybe 40 to 50 millimeter a year. But in some area, it moves much faster than that. You see the bottom left, it is a straight road according to the map of JKR. But when the engineer go there, 3 months later, he said, who modified my route to become a crooked one? You look at the road, you look also at the drain at both sides of the road. You look at the bottom right, the house, the wall of the kitchen actually was at the place where my friend is standing. My friend with the blue vest is standing. That was some 3 months ago. 3 months earlier, the wall was there, but now moving. 2 days ago, I was there, then keep shifting into another area. That is Kundasang, where the area that we are talking about. Right. I displayed this photograph earlier about how a hotel complex look like, and all of a sudden, not all of a sudden actually, they have been observing all the signs of the instability and of the soil movement and slope movement, but they just do nothing with it. They just cover, they just ignore it until sometime in end of last year, the whole thing collapsed, and this is the picture tells you in a more detail. All right. So our approach, what we do, that we use all the 4 attributes as we do the terrain geological mapping, and we add in the first attribute, that is the vegetation cover and water seepage and whatnot, in analyzing it, and we try to generate a landslide hazard map with 4 classes. But this class is not as a class in the geological terrain mapping. And this class was developed by us, and we have proof that it is of a good standing. So, the landslide risk map try to quantify. The purpose of this map is to quantify the vulnerability of an area and refer to the consequences of the failure on human activities, and all these things that we do have a score system which we calculate it using a standard equation as being displayed, and these are the weightage. The weightage applies for every factors, that how the thing will risk your life, how it will affect the economy or economic activity of the area, how it will affect the utilities, public utilities such as roads, water lines, and power lines, and about the safety of the building or the condition of the building nearing the area. So we come up with few rating and few score, of which I do not want to detail it here. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, what I want to say is that GIS application has been used effectively in analyzing and managing the geoscience data to produce what we call a useful informative map for land use and development planning of the country, be it at the state level as well as at the district level. And in doing that, the GIS approach in geohazard mapping involves a lot of statistical analysis and a heuristic method to establish the hazard rating of the study area. And geohazard map has served as a guidelines to manage and to reduce risk and properties destruction on human. So what I can say is that right now the department is one of the agencies under the one-stop center to supply all the information concerning the geology. We are also a member of many other local level planning committee, and we are happy, ladies and gentlemen, to serve to the better development of the country. So, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Bagian Dato' di atas kertas